great, make no mistake. It's a shake and bake, gonna slash through the break.
What's up, Ramley? You are now in the kitchen with Chef Nixon for all your fixings for the latest and greatest of VCU men's basketball. So, VCU had a game last night. How did it go? Let's get into it. All right, so VCU hosting St. Louis. What does it mean? St. Louis they have a record of 19 and 9. They're currently tied in the A10 for second place with Dayton and Fordham. So winning this for them, just put them in the tug of war of who's going to be second, who's going to be third, who's going to be fourth, like that. They're coming off a convincing win over Loyola Chicago. Not too hard to get a convincing win over them, but after their up and down play recently, it's kind of good to have a game like that. It's like a confidence booster. However, they will be dealing with a completely different animal with VCU. VCU is a winner of like 5 in a row right now, and they have a goal set. They have a goal in mind, 2 to be exact, maybe even 3. So they're a motivated team right now. So it's going to be hard for St. Louis to come into the stew and get a win. However, they are well coached, very talented, led by the assist leader in the A10 history. So they're gonna have something to say about VCU. But how would they handle it? How would they fare? Are they going to come out looking for revenge for how VCU pulled out the game in St. Louis? Are they going to lay down? I remember I told you all how someone said that St. Louis looks tired, like they just ready for the season to be over. Which St. Louis are we going to get? Are we going to get the good St. Louis, bad St. Louis? Would it even matter? So for VCU, we come in with a record of 22 and 7. Like I said, a winner of like 4 or 5 straight. And our goal for last night's game was basically just win. By any means, just win. With a win, we can clinch the A10 regular season championship. I don't remember the last time we did that. It might have been back when Briante was in school. But a huge accomplishment nonetheless to attain. And as far as we talk about these goals, so there's one. And then, of course, you want to position yourself in a position where you have the best route to win the A10 tournament, and that's definitely having the number 1 seed. Still, nothing's guaranteed. You see a lot of upsets throughout the A10 tournament, but you want to put yourself in the best position. So there you have that. But then also, just for coverage, just for insurance, you want to make sure you win a game like this because it'll help your at-large bid chances as well. So VCU, I say be stingy. Take care of the at-large bid. Guarantee or promise put more money in the bank in regards to that, and win the A10 tournament so nobody else can get in. Solely us. I am all aboard for that. So the message for last night was win. So let's get into the game. St. Louis, a very talented team. However, today they would be down one of their best players, or one of their starters, I should say. Okoro, he's their 5, about 6'8", 6'9", very, very strong face, strong big man, plays his role well, gives them a sense of toughness and physicality down low. How would that, impact them? How would it change their style of play? Jay Forrester is going to definitely have to take up a lot of the responsibilities. He usually comes in for Okoro. However, I said this last time, and I'll say it again. I think Jay Forrester brings another element to St. Louis that Okoro does not. Okoro has the ability to, score around the basket. But Forrester can step out, hit a 15-footer. He's very athletic. And also, he is a very good facilitator for that position. He really helps their offense get to clicking. So, I wonder how that would impact them on the offensive end. However, I think Okoro is a better defender. And I think he brings another element of physicality. So it's going to be a back and forth trade off. So I'm just curious to see how things work for them. In other news, the stew is back. I paid attention to how the season was, how it started off. Everything was kind of, in the middle. But shout out to the team, shout out to the coaching staff, shout out to the athletic administration, to VCU Hoops, to everybody who put the time in to really promote and push the narrative that VCU is worth the ticket. Because towards the end of this season, we started getting more fan participation, whether that be with the students. We started getting more fan attendance, even with the season ticket holders. And now we're starting to get the excitement and the cheer back into the stew, which had been kind of dull due to, I think I'll blame most of that on COVID, but it's starting to get back to the real stew, and I could not be happier. Shout out to Ryan. I can't forget Ryan, the band director for the Peppers. You know what I mean? That type of stuff all works together, and winning heals all. And VCU has done a lot of winning. So shout out to everybody, all the Ramley who showed up and showed out. I'm glad that you're back in the stew. I'm glad you're back cheering. I'm glad we're back to being the real VCU. So let's get into this game. Honestly, I thought offensively, the first half, just to sum it up, I just think that we played meh. We did some good things, but we did a lot of bad things. I'll say a lot, but we did some bad things as well. I thought we started out the game with the turnover, just a miscommunication between Nick Kern and Jay Nunn. Turnover. However, we got the ball back because we played stellar defense and forced St. Louis into a shot clock violation. So, one thing I've always given this team credit for is, even when the offense isn't going, they usually don't get derailed from who they are defensively. And that was just a short synopsis of that. And another thing I'd like to point out is, even though we start the game off with a turnover, has anyone noticed how we have cut our turnovers down these last few games? At the beginning of the season, we were averaging 17 turnovers per game. And a lot of that, which it should have been expected, but we all could be prisoners of the moment at the time. But a lot of that was we just had so many different players to plug in, people getting comfortable, getting used to players, where they're going to be at on the floor, how are they going to respond, do they like the back door, do they like to come off the screen, how does he roll, where is he going to be, tendencies, stuff like that. So a lot of that, I would say, was just us not being familiar with each other. However, as the season goes on, we start getting more comfortable. You start understanding how guys move, how they move without the ball. You start understanding what Ace is looking for when he comes off a ball screen. Like Nick Kern. I think Nick Kern does a really good job of cutting without the basketball. That started a whole movement even with Zeb and Jameer. So you know what I mean? I think a lot of the turnovers were just us not being familiar with each other. Even though we had 7 new players, Jameer was just coming back from a knee injury. So it was a lot of different things. He was trying to find his fitness. So it was a lot of different things. But of the last 8 games, we're averaging around 9 turnovers. Under 10 turnovers. And for a team that's top 25 and turning teams over, and a team that's half-court defense is stellar as ours, not turning the ball over is really really important to us. Sometimes even when we have our scoring droughts, I mean, it is what it is, but we're not turning the ball over. We're getting a shot up. Excuse me. All right, I'm back. So yeah. Now, the one thing I will say about St. Louis, they are a team, and this is it's kind of both. It's kind of both. It's some against VCU starting off in this first half, and something you got to give St. Louis credit for as well. St. Louis did a really good job of moving the ball. They didn't allow the ball to stick, and part of that is who they are as in their DNA, and that's why they're such a good team. Even though I feel like, and I think most people will probably say this as well, especially the St. Louis fans, they probably think that St. Louis has underachieved this season. Or maybe they were just too hyped. I don't know. But they have a really good team, and you've seen glimpses of how good they can be. However, for some reason, they just haven't been able to put it together and sustain some consistency. But they show you glimpses of how good they are with their ball movement and just finding their shoes. They have a lot of guys who are capable of knocking shots down. Guys, well, the only guy that really likes to drive and create for other people is Yuri Collins. And he does an excellent job of that. I think he finished the night with 8 assists. However, we're going to get into him a little bit later too. So I think they did a really good job of moving the ball. However, I think VCU struggled to communicate early on. Now, I just gave them the defense credit, but they were very spotty in the first half. And when I say spotty, it was just like giving too many open shots to the shooters. Jimerson for St. Louis, I think by the time it's all said and done for him, what year is Jimerson? Is he a sophomore? Yeah. When it's all said and done for him, I think that he's going to have the ability to go overseas and make some money just because he's going to be a shooting specialist. Now, whether he develops his game into something more than that, we'll see. But I think he has the ability to be a specialist somewhere. His shot is very quick, and when he's hitting, he looks like a pro. You know what I mean? So we gave him a lot of shots. We gave Perkins a lot of open shots, and they hit some early. I think they hit like 5 in the first 6 to 7 minutes. That's what kept them in the game. But I just think that we need to do a better job, especially moving forward with George Washington next, and then the A-10 tournament. You never know how the referee is going to call the game. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we do want to talk about this later. But you have to do a better job of just being locked in from the get-go. Don't allow teams to get confident, because if you do that in tournament time, they don't need to be a better team than you. They just have to be better than you that day. So don't give them the confidence. I put this note down here, and I just found it funny. It's something I noticed that I just found intriguing. Teams are so concerned with Ace going left that sometimes I feel like they just give him the right, and I just don't understand why they do that. It's not. He's an elite college basketball player. If you shade him too much on the left hand side, he's just going to go right. He's going to pull up and knock it down between your eyebrows, or he's going to go and create for somebody else. So I'm not trying to give the game away, but it's just so. I think that's a terrible idea. You're better off playing him straight up. I just found that funny. Also, I think that once the wheels started turning, we did pretty good. But then we got on the stretch where we just took so many ill-advised shots. There was a whole stretch, and I think we didn't score for like 5 or 6 minutes in the first half, to the point where St. Louis was able to come back and take the lead going into half. And this is a half that was majorly dominated by us. So it was kind of interesting to see them like mess up so much. You know what I mean? It not even mess up like just the shot selection. There was a time where we came down and one person to touch the ball up with a shot. We come down one pass up with the shot, and when VCU's playing at their best, it's usually because we move the ball. The ball isn't sticking. We got a lot of backdoor cuts. We got screen and roll action. We hit the roller hit the wing, or the wing's cutting backdoor from there. We drive and kick. We're at our best when we play like that. But for some reason during this stretch, we just took the first shot. It wasn't a great shot. It wasn't even a good shot. It would be okay shots early in the shot clock that we can get late in the shot clock, and we were missing and allowing St. Louis to just run the ball and get out in transition and giving them opportunities to score. And that's what I mean by just being locked in. We had struggles of just being locked in on both sides of the floor in the first half, and it was quite aggravating to watch. But we did have some good stuff. I mean, I think Shriver played very well. To be honest with you, I think outside of maybe like a Dayton game, he has some games where he goes off for threes, but I think this game was my favorite Shriver game outside of Dayton, because he hit shots. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what he's expected to do. But Shriver was able to really guard in this game. He made multiple efforts on the defensive end this game. He challenged shots. He even got a block this game. You know what I mean? So I think this was his more complete game in a VCU jersey. And it was very exciting to see, because if he can continue that, because one thing, I don't know if y'all noticed, but there's a point in time where Perkins had Shriver on him, and he's clapping so hard. You would think he's giving a standing ovation at a concert, you know what I mean, or opera or something. He's clapping hard as hell, trying to get the ball so he can go one-on-one against Shriver. You know what I mean? And for him to have that type of target on his back, I think he handled that very, very well against St. Louis. So shout out to Shriver. Keep up the good work. Continue to do that, because it's going to be more and more and more people going at your neck. So, with the sloppy play, after leading the whole half, in the last 2 minutes, we end up giving up the lead and going to halftime 35-31. Okay? So, from there, what did I notice? I noticed that when we came out at halftime, Ace Baldwin was like, not today. Ace said, I'm going to take it personally. And he came out with a lot of energy, a lot of focus. And like I've always said, when you can tell Ace is locked in, majority of the time the team is right behind him when he's like that. And it was so good to see him come out and be aggressive, because it set the tone for the rest of the half. Now, granted, St. Louis was in this game regardless. St. Louis was in this game. They made a lot of different plays. They handled their business to a good. Hold on, let me find it. They handled their business extremely well, but VCU overall is just a better team. What we were able to do against St. Louis and force them into the situations they were in, not a lot of teams can do. For example, Yuri Collins. Yuri Collins makes everything tick for St. Louis. I mentioned that earlier. They have Jimerson, they have Perkins, they have Okoro, they have Forrester, and Forrester might be the second best passer on the team. as a 4/5. But all their players are all there. It's almost like a Chris Paul Clippers team back in the day with no Blake Griffin, of course. It's just like everything has to be generated by him. Now they have some guys that can go 1-on-1, but how far? Like, not really. You know what I mean? Jimerson wants to catch and shoot. Perkins, before the injury, maybe he was a dog, but from what I've seen from him now, he's more so of he needs to be set up in a sense. Okoro, same thing. Forrest, the same thing. I mean, of course, outside of offense, rebound, stuff like that. But when Yuri Collins plays us, yes, he has some success. He finishes the game, like I said, he finishes the game with 8 assists. But he also finishes the game with 8 turnovers. You know what I mean? And I don't care. I don't really care where you are, who you are. You have 8 turnovers in a game. A defense or something was bothering you or confusing you, or you know what I'm saying, just speeding you up a little bit. And I think that that starts with our guards. I'll take our guards against any other guard in A10, and we'll have to see about the country when we get to this NCAA. But yeah, I mean, we really make it tough on him, and we make it tough for him. We really make it tough for St. Louis. And I'll be remiss if I don't give our wings some credit too. I always talk about our guards, but what Nick Kern is able to do coming down the stretch, what Nick Kern is able to do coming down the stretch, what Jameer Watkins is able to do. So check me out. Nick Kern, right? We all know he's a defender. He's a cutter, and he can finish around the rim. So what did teams start doing to him? They started playing off him to the point like Rajon Rondo. Go back and look at some Rajon Rondo footage back when he was just starting to emerge as a really good player in Boston. They were like, well, he's not shooting no threes. I'm going to guard him at the free throw line. If he's on the wing and there's a post and Brandon Johns or somebody's on the post, I'm going to be all the way back, fronting basically Brandon Johns and encouraging him to shoot. So what did Nick Kern do? And this is one of the reasons I love his ability to adapt. I love his ability to adapt. Nick Kern said, hey, if you want to play back off of me like that, I'm going to come downhill at you with all my 6'6", 6'7" length and all of my athleticism, and you're going to have to meet me at the rim. And these last few games, he has been spectacular at doing that. Of course, the defense is there. It always has been. That's why he was in the starting lineup. And I think the turning point was when how Dayton guarded him when they came to the stew. I think he took it personally. I'm not sure if he noticed. He probably did, because after that is when I really started seeing the change. But he really started coming downhill at guys, forcing the contact, being aggressive, attacking the rim, using his athleticism, and it's been nothing but great for VCU. Now let's get to Jameer, another one of our wings. Jameer, I always say he has, as far as pro, he has the body type, he has skill set, he has to let the game come to him and continue to get better. And maybe by his senior year, his quote unquote senior year, he'll be a junior. He might be ready. You know what I'm saying? He might be ready. Jameer is a premier small forward rebounder. When he's locked in defensively, he's probably our best shot blocker. How about that? Did you think about that? And whenever his shot starts going consistently, because I know he can shoot it, but when it starts going in consistently, he is going to be hard to handle. But what he's doing now, same thing as Nick. He's getting downhill, using his physicality. He's built a little stronger than Nick. But he's coming downhill, using that physicality, getting to the line, making it tough for people. And these two guys are probably one of the reasons we're leading him and them and Ace. We all do a good job of coming downhill and getting fouls. But it's really impactful when our wings are really excelling, and both of them had a really good game, in my opinion, against St. Louis. 1 second. Okay. So, talk about Nick Kern. Talk about them. Now, another person to give a shout out, which I always do, but I have to. It really hit me today. Deloach really doesn't have a lot of shot blocks, in my opinion. I don't really see him as a shot blocker per se. But what he does a really good job at is just changing shots. He's always getting in the way. And sometimes that's just as good as blocking a shot. Sometimes. But he's such a solid defender. And he has the attitude that he wants to lock you up. You know what I'm saying? His presence is so impactful. So it's really good to see him, because whenever we have struggles offensively, he always finds a way to get his hands on the ball, pause, and give us a second chance opportunity, or just mucks it up down there in some type of way, which is beneficial to us. And as we came down the stretch, the game was a really back and forth. It was a back and forth game throughout, nip and tuck. And I got to give St. Louis credit for them coming out and fighting hard. However, when I watched this game and then I rewatched the game, St. Louis is a top 4 seed team, and if we're locked in and playing our game, I really don't think they can mess with us. Seriously, I really don't. We have depth, we have height, we have length, we have athleticism. We have the best point guard in the A10. And probably the best big duo as well. Along with that, we have two wings that can impact the game. We're a really good team when we're locked in. And the only team that I really consider, and every team's a challenge. I'm not trying to say that we can't be beat, but the only team I really see that could really challenge us like that is Dayton. If we're playing our best and they're playing their best, it's Dayton. You know what I mean? Dayton has the talent and the size to match up with us. Dayton might be even a little bit bigger. But outside of that, man, it's really hard for me to see teams really competing with us if we're playing our A game. We had a late run in the second half, which led to us being able to pull out the victory, winning the A10 regular season championship, and move one step forward to obtaining an at-large bid. So VCU pulled out the game 79-67. Let's get into these stats. All right, for St. Louis, Yuri Collins, 10 points, 8 assists, 8 turnovers. Like I said, he makes everything go for St. Louis. When he can't go, neither can they. Jay Forrester, 14 points, 10 rebounds. Did a really good job of, filling in for Okoro. But again, like I said, I think VCU is just too much for St. Louis. I think we took their best shot down at their house, and we were able to pull that game out, and that was all she wrote. VCU, Jaden Deloach, led the way, 14 points, 5 rebounds. Ace Baldwin, 12 points, 6 assists. But we had six guys in double figures, and maybe one with 8. That type of balanced scoring is scary. We already had games where Ace goes off or none goes off, and those are prolific scores. But when we have balanced scoring like that, it is extremely tough. We are extremely tough to beat. So my low-key player of the game is Nick Kern. 12 points, 4 rebounds. But of course, sometimes what he brings to the table you can't find on the stat sheet. So one time for Nick Kern. A few takeaways. One, Ace Baldwin is undoubtedly the number 1 point guard in the A10. Without a doubt. Yuri Collins is really good. I really like Yuri Collins' game, and I think he can play anywhere and be impactful. But I just think Ace, whenever Ace plays him, he kind of outdoes him. And he's been doing that to all the point guards in the A10. There's only a few times I've seen Ace get outplayed that come to my mind. And that was the guard against Jacksonville, who was really having a really good night. And maybe Trey Clark and Duquesne. Only 2 times I've seen maybe he got outplayed. But other than that, he's been very dominant. And then, what would you say, before we get to moving forward, what would you say if I told you the MVP of this season is Nick Kern? What would you say if I told you that? And maybe he's not the best player. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Nick Kern is the best player on this team. Don't get me wrong. But look at the success VCU has had once they moved into the starting lineup. Once he found himself a role, once he got it all together, look at the success they had. Remember, we had these very slow starts, and it was really killing us because we will be trying to fight back from a double-digit deficit. Nick Kern starting lineup, we don't have that no more. Matter of fact, I'm willing to actually, if we go back and look since Nick Kern has started, what's our record compared to what it was before? Who we lose to? Does that matter? Look it up. He just might be. And I'm not saying he is. But y'all let me know. All right, so moving forward. George Washington, Saturday at George Washington. Beating them does nothing per se for us. But losing to them kills us. We'll still have the number 1 seed in the A10. Okay, cool. But we will have to then win the A10 tournament to get in. Because it would be a terrible loss. A terrible one. And I've seen a little bit of George Washington play before, and they're like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. Some days they look really, really dangerous. Other days, not so much. They're led by James Bishop. He's averaging 21.4 points a game. The guy is a bucket getter. Absolute bucket getter. And he's been over 25 points 9 times this year. And then he has a handful of 22 points per game. Right? So, what we have to do is we have to turn off that faucet. We can't let him get started. And if he finishes the game with 25 points, he has to be shooting 30% or less from the field. Make his points garbage points. You know what I mean? Because if he's not having a good game, they can have some other guards. They have another guard that can show up and do some things, but he's the one you got to watch out for. So take care of business, seal the deal, win out. You had a goal, complete the goal. We won the A10 regular championship. However, seal the deal. Go into the conference on a W and on a good note. We didn't do it last year, and it came back to bite us. Finish out the season the right way. Finish out the regular season the right way. Thank y'all for letting me cook, and until next time, peace.